800 years. That is the lifespan of the Zhou Dynasty, making it the longest ruling dynasty in the entire history of China. To survive for 8 centuries requires a system built on ironclad stability and majestic authority. But that stability was an illusion. For the vast majority of those 8 centuries, the Zhou kings watched their empire tear itself to pieces. The Zhou came to power around 1046 BCE by overthrowing the corrupt Shang dynasty. To justify their rebellion, they introduced a political concept that would define Chinese statecraft for millennia, the mandate of heaven. They claimed that heaven only grants the right to rule to a just and moral leader. In its early centuries, the Zhou maintained a highly structured Bronze Age society. They operated under a strict feudal system, where nobles resolved conflicts through formalized chariot skirmishes and paid tribute using these heavy, intricate bronze ritual vessels. It was an era defined by profound ceremonial order. Yet, that exact feudal structure contained the seeds of its own destruction. The king distributed land to regional lords, expecting military protection and loyalty in return. Over generations, those vassal lords grew wealthy. They built their own localized power bases and simply stopped answering to the central throne. When a state is held together by mere polite mutual loyalty, it is uniquely fragile. Once decentralization takes hold and regional lords realize they no longer need the king, the entire system begins to unravel. The polite chariot skirmishes evaporated as China plunged into the Warring States period. These conflicts evolved into brutal sieges, fought by massive conscripted armies, dying beneath towering walls of compacted earth. The political map became a meat grinder. Hundreds of small, fractured states violently consumed one another in a relentless campaign of expansion, until only 7 large superpowers remained on the board. These surviving 7 states were locked in perpetual combat. With wars flashing along every border, commanders faced an enormous logistical crisis. They needed to arm hundreds of thousands of soldiers, forcing an intense technological arms race out of pure necessity. The solution lay in the flames of the forge. The Bronze Age died, and the era of mass iron production began. Chinese metallurgists mastered iron casting with heat-resistant clay molds, allowing them to mass-produce highly lethal infantry weapons, including sharper swords, reinforced iron armor, and sophisticated crossbows, rapidly escalating the lethality of the battlefield. This constant threat of annihilation forced metallurgists to scale production in ways that were previously impossible. To arm these massive conscripted infantries, the states had to move beyond the slow, artisan methods of the Bronze Era and master the mass production of iron. But here lies the great paradox of the Zhou Dynasty. This era of bloodshed directly triggered China's greatest intellectual awakening, a period known as the 100 Schools of Thought. The population was desperate to understand why their world was collapsing. In response, a wave of thinkers emerged, each attempting to blueprint a functional, stable society from the ground up. A scholar named Confucius believed the answer was a return to order. He taught that society could only be saved by adhering to strict moral codes, deep reverence for the family, and rigid rituals, known as Li. On the opposite end of the spectrum was Taoism. Thinkers like Laozi argued that the best way to survive the chaos was through inaction, urging people to find natural harmony with the universe rather than fighting against its violent currents. Then there was legalism. This was a pragmatic view, assuming humans are inherently selfish and deceitful. Legalists argued that society can only survive through the enforcement of harsh, unforgiving laws and absolute obedience to the state. This intellectual boom extended to the battlefield itself. General Sun Tzu authored The Art of War, a text that codified military strategy, espionage, and deceit into a meticulous science as a direct response to the new scale of violence. The disintegration of the old order forced a complete rethinking of what a state should be. Scholars sitting in the shadow of war were forced to invent the sophisticated moral and strategic frameworks that would govern life for 2,000 years. The Zhou Dynasty ended in 256 BCE, but the centuries of near-constant warfare had already rebuilt the structures of Chinese life from the ground up. The ceremonial bronze culture of the past was gone. In its place stood a society powered by mass-produced iron and guided by the foundational philosophies of the 100 Schools. The ongoing stalemate forced every state to look inward, searching for any administrative edge that would allow them to mobilize more men and more grain than their neighbors. While others clung to tradition, the Qin state overhauled their entire government. They replaced hereditary privilege with a meritocracy that rewarded military success and strictly enforced agricultural quotas to fund their campaigns. This process of administrative centralization and legalist reform transformed the Qin into the most efficient military machine in the ancient world. The chaotic decline of the Zhou provided the blueprint for its successor. The iron tools and hardline philosophies developed in that fire became the means by which the Qin would finally consolidate the entire Middle Kingdom.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to NovaMind for more inspiring thoughts and ideas.